my name is Nacho, welcome back to the channel. So I finally went through all the episodes of One Piece. How, you may ask? I binged the whole thing in one night. I don't have a life. Now, if you don't want the whole breakdown and you want a quick summary of whether or not you should watch this, do you like Pirates of the Caribbean? Then yes, you should watch it. Now you might be thinking, that's a horrible reference. This has nothing to do with Pirates of the Caribbean. You're right. But that means you probably know the source material. To explain it quickly to someone who doesn't, it's a pirate show with superpowers and fishmen. Fucking fight me. Before I say anything else, I believe the show is a success. It has tons of views in the first few days, it has great positive reviews, and it's on top of all the streaming charts, and rightfully so. It's a good show. It sticks close enough to the source material, which is what we want from a live action, but for the anime initiated, because we are initiated, aren't we, Bruce? Members of the Weeb of Shadows, I'll reiterate what I said in my last video. It has a lot of things that I like, but a lot of things that I didn't. Some of the things that I like remain. The costume design, locations, more on-point actors and characters like Mihawk, Seth, fucking Sanji. I'll break that guy down in a second. And I'll also add the music improved because they added a instrumental "We Are" at some points of the show. They still have the generic pirate theme in most of them, but other than that, all those things that I mentioned are amazing. The show is truly immersive if you're into that over-the-top fantasy. So if I have to rate it just for that, it's a very good show. I liked it, I watched it, like I said. Binge it one night, noticed some Easter eggs here and there, and probably not gonna watch it again until season 2. Because it's gonna get a season 2, and it deserves one. But because you're not here to listen to the good things, let's break down what I believe the show missed. Oh, by the way, do you guys like super closed angles? Something that was done very well is that every character in the season has their backstory displayed in their own episode. Sanji and Nami are by far the best ones adapted, closely followed by Usopp's, but I didn't like the changes to Zoro's and Luffy's. Luffy's backstory had a couple of changes I disliked that you can call minor, like the circumstances of him eating the fruit. The bandits that mess with Shanks came back and fight him in one of the action sequences that didn't look as good. It definitely lacked the impact and fluidity, and it basically looked bad. Shanks loses track of Luffy cause he turned and he wasn't there, which in the anime is quickly fixed with a smoke bomb, something that makes more sense. Once in the ocean, Luffy falls in the water and the bandit gets eaten before Shanks appears and saves him from the Sea King. Right, so far so good. Where they went wrong is something only a fan of the anime would notice, and is that in the original anime, Shanks appears in the water right before the Sea King eats Luffy. That's how he loses his arm, because he has to shove him out of the way. In the new version, Shanks appears in a raft and kinda dodges a bite, not really, and does his Emperor Haki on the monster to drive him away. Now that part was alright, but having Shanks out of the water will create a problem, because it will make people who haven't seen the anime think he has a devil fruit, because how would he otherwise have done that? And even though Haki is not explained until right before the time skip, it's something crucial in the world of One Piece. And it makes it harder to answer questions like, how can Luffy receive a club to the head but not a punch from Garp, or the reason why Mihawk's sword is black. If I have to think of a reason why they would make that change, it would be from a filmmaking point of view. Having actors outside of the water is always preferred. Go watch the Drinker's Take on Waterworld, where he mentioned how Spielberg struggled while filming Jaws for this very same reason. So even though I understand the change, I don't like it. Neither do I like what they've done to Zoro's backstory. Kuina's death is what drives Zoro to train harder and prefer the Santo Ryu style with her sword, and they chose not to show it. That, and the fact that the acting level during that flashback was kinda poor, it's what mostly made me dislike it. Not the case with the other backstories. A good example is Sanji's backstory, which was changed slightly from the original cause Seth gets his leg caught in the wreck, he doesn't actually eat it. Despite that, it fits well. It's well paced, was well acted, and even though you can't really see the animation on Seth and Sanji cause you can't ask a child actor to go full Christian Bale in the mechanic for that scene, the message got across well, which later worked when Sanji was ready to leave the Varieté and says goodbye to Seth. The connection was there, and it made it really emotional. While on the topic, Taz Skylar was so on point with his character. I saw some of the behind the scenes of the guy, and he dedicated himself so much. He trained his kicks, he practiced his cooking, he did his own stunts which look really good in the show, and I was able to see that dedication he put as an actor in the character, to the point that makes him probably the best thing about the show. Apparently people didn't like him as a cast for Sanji, and I just can't imagine why. Him, Nami, Garp, Mihawk were the closest things I've ever seen to a proper live-action character. And a character that surprised me from the previous that I thought I wasn't going to like was Buggy. I don't think he was the most closely adapted, but Jeff Ward just charisma his way into making me like him. Same thing with Stephen Ward as Mihawk. Now, Iñaki and Makenyu. Even though Zoro smiled a couple of times here and there, Makenyu kept the stone-faced demeanor for the majority of the show, and it kinda lost me. This is anime Zoro just hearing about Mihawk for the first time. And this is live-action Zoro having Mihawk right next to him.
One of you is Monkey D. Luffy.
Who wants to know?
I've been following your career since I was a child. It's an honor to finally meet you, sir.
Thank you.
It pains me to inform you that tomorrow you're going to die.
He's so cool!
The worst, I think, was during the fight against him, which looked really cool, but the moment after he lost is such a valuable moment and has such an epic importance in Zoro's arc that even him doing the same poses and everything just didn't came through the same way. It just felt short. But then again, that's me knowing the source material. For everyone else, it might have come up just okay. And Luffy. Look, Iñaki, it's alright. But once you start comparing things, the Gungam attacks feel weird with his accent, the changes from serious to goofy seem a bit forced, the over-the-topness of Luffy feels weird. He's a good actor, he fits the role, but I can still see the actor. Unlike Taz, where I can see Sanji, with him I see Iñaki and not Luffy. Same thing with Makenyu and not Zoro. Also, why couldn't we voice Zoro's attacks? They're some of the best ones out there, especially after the time skip. Just the thought that we're not gonna have a 108-pound cannon attack or the 3000 worlds. I get that he has a sword in his mouth, but just can we dub it over? Whatever.
Of course. How selfish of me. Let's do all the things that you want to do.
This show is probably the most accurate adaptation ever done by Netflix, hands down. But it's still Netflix. And much like war, Netflix never changes. In my previous video I said that the fishermen or gyojin of Arlong's crew didn't look that well, and I'll stick by it. But for the context of the show, they look okay. Donatella Versace is probably the worst looking one of them. Regardless, I can live with it. But at one point during the last episodes, Arlong, which happens to be played by a black actor, goes on a little rant with one of the marine captains under his payroll on how humans enslaved fishmen and racially segregated them. And I just couldn't help to make the connection, and this is some social political bullshit that they inserted in there. Not only Nami's sister is now black, are we surprised that she is? No, this is Netflix. They can't help themselves. It's the same shit that they did with that dwarf giving that speech to the elf in Blood Origin. I don't even remember their names. The world government, which are technically the baddies in this world, is led by 5 white old men. They are not gonna get changed in the slightest. Trust me on that. If we ever get to see them in the live action, they are gonna remain very male and very white. But the gyojins, which have a seat in the world's government table, led by Trident himself, his sons and daughter, who happens to be an ancient weapon that can control the Sea Kings, a race of which Arlong and the Sun Pirates belong to and are considered rebels to that kingdom, and have a particular hate towards humans, because they consider them inferior. That's the context of the character. Arlong hates humans because of his superiority complex, because they betrayed Fisher Tiger and sent him to prison. So that little monologue there stands out like a sore thumb, and it makes me so mad because it's more the socio-political bullshit from the real world drenched into our entertainment. They can't help themselves. They do the same shit with shows, with movies, and with games. And they held it to the very end, which is very annoying because the show was doing so well as an adaptation up until that point. But overall, they did a good job. Condensing the episodes from the anime was necessary because you can't really fit 40 plus episodes into one season without making some changes, so despite some of them being subpar in my opinion, they end up being good enough and cohesive enough to deliver a good result. I said it before, I don't hate it, I also don't love it. Watching the original to make the comparison just reinforced the fact that the anime did a much better job. However, for people who are not fans of the anime or the manga, it's a good show, and it brings people into the fandom, which will maybe get some of them to give the IP more than just a look. How long will this show go is something that's on my mind, because so far, it's okay, but later episodes, it gets much more wacky and much more flashy. Am I hopeful for this show to remain accurate? With Eiichiro all around, yes. But this being under the wings of Netflix and with that little insert at the end of the season, not so much. I guess time will tell. But if you watch this far into the video, leave us a like, let me know in the comments down below which is your favorite One Piece character outside of the main crew. And as always, I've been Nacho, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.